Okay, let's try again. Okay. Yes. We got it.
Yes, we did.
It's a miracle. Hi.
You just had to be my friend first.
Yeah, what's up with that? Can't interview your non-friends.
Right?
Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
I'm glad we got that
For
started.
sure. How are you? Great to meet you.
Yeah, you as well. I'm great. I'm feeling much better now that I'm done.
Awesome.
So I just wanted to give everybody a little overview of the Keto Reboot program. And then I had some questions from some of my clients and followers, just, you know, that I'd love to go over with you so you can answer. Does that sound good?
Let's do it.
Okay, so why don't you tell us a little bit about what it is and how long it lasts for? That should be the first question.
Yeah, for sure. So, as you know, you're very well versed in holistic health and metabolic optimization, and you do a lot of this coaching. I'm part of a company where a couple of years ago we began experimenting with extended fasting. And when I say extended, beyond intermittent fasting, so more than 24 hours. And, you know, as someone that always been an athlete, work out a good bit, you know, as we age, we're losing muscle. Certainly that was one of my fears. Hey, if I go without macronutrients for an extended period of time, certainly protein, I don't want to catabolize, you know, the muscle that I've built. And so we were introduced, you know, about 4 years ago to this new ketone technology where you can now supplement ketones therapeutically as a nutrient. So a lot of people miss this. Ketones, and I'm sitting here, so ketones that we now have via Keto Max from Prove It, they're actually a caloric nutrient. So whereas protein, carb, fat all have a caloric value, so do ketones. So 1 gram is approximately 5 calories. So the one thing about ketones in our formulation is it's put together with ketogenic amino acids as well, like leucine being the number one. And so all of this to say ketones are very protein sparing. They're very anti-catabolic. They're very muscle sparing, protecting and preserving. And so we thought, I wonder if we did a fast with the help of ketones, would that improve the odds of the average person? Because we still have to be moms and dads and bosses and employees. And, you know, we don't want to get too cranky, too crabby, too hungry, too tired without, you know, during fasting, which would be difficult. And so as a result, me and Big Shane, who you've met, and a few others, literally it was about a dozen of us, did this 2 years ago. And we just kind of played along with the format. People ask, why 60 hours? Well, the first 30, you're kind of depleting glycogen, stored carbohydrates in the body. Mm-hmm. And so the reason we don't do just say, you know, 2 days or 48 hours is because that's when the going starts to get good. You know, with Prove It, we have this saying, make shift happen. And we go from a sugar burner to a fat burner. Even if someone's not, you know, even if someone is following a ketogenic diet, we still deplete stored carbohydrates. And now we are in this fat burning mode where we're initiating ketogenesis, ketone generation from breaking down fatty acids. So it took about, you know, maybe 30 hours to make that happen. And then it just worked out where it was a Sunday night at 9 p.m. till a Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. And there were just amazing benefits amongst the dozen of us. You know, just better clarity. Wow, I just feel good. You know, when was the last time the average person really went under digestive rest? You know, that's the only time you really can digest the second brain of your body, the gut, which you know plenty about.
Yes.
Well, the only way to really rest that is to fast.
Yeah.
And this gave us the ability to do it without going crazy, without wanting to murder somebody, without wanting to, you know, whatever. And so we experimented for about a year and a half. So we did them every 30 days and we just learned more and more. But the cool thing was it turned into tens of thousands of people around the world. You know, now with social media, someone posts, hey, I just did a 60-day or 60-hour water fast. Who's interested? Well, that's a topic that not many people have ever visited. You know, we've heard of detoxes and we've heard of juice fasts, but very seldom do we hear of a water fast. It just sounds too difficult for the average person.
Yeah.
So the company came to us and we kind of formulated this Keto Reboot kit. And we call it Reboot just because it's some of our pattern language where it makes sense, right? When your smartphone is slow and sluggish or freezes up, which oftentimes a lot of our metabolic workings do as humans, we want to reboot it. We reset it. We remove kind of the viruses, old programs, delete some files, and that's the equivalent of what this Keto Reboot does to the body over the course of 60 hours. So we do it each and every month. We have a $79 kit that becomes breakfast, lunch, dinner. You just experienced it. I'd love to know, what were your thoughts? Very different. I remember the first night we talked, you're like, wow, this is different than what I'm used to.
Yeah, you know, and I do a lot of cleanses and detoxes. Obviously, my focus is hormonal health, primarily for women. So I focus on the liver, I focus on the gut. And I wanted to do this for myself, one, just because I do believe fasting is so beneficial for the gut bacteria, to give it a break and to repopulate. Also for anybody who has SIBO, which a lot of my clients do have, you know, that's an issue where the small intestine literally gets bacteria in there, and the motor complex that sweeps the bacteria down is almost paralyzed. And so the only way to really give it a break is to not put anything in there and allow the body to do its work. And then, just like you said, it's like a reset button, and then, you know, we can go into more gut and SIBO protocols from there. But I wanted to try it. I always try everything before I introduce it to my clients. I'm not going to ask them to do something I haven't done. And it was difficult. It was difficult. I think I had, and the biggest thing was a headache. You know, I was able to move through the hunger because I do intermittent fasting regularly. So it's not as difficult for me. And I would say that probably for women, especially who may be having hormonal issues or issues with their adrenals, probably doing a little bit of that first to kind of get the body used to it before jumping into a full 60-hour fast. But I see the benefit of doing this, you know, a couple of times, you know, or once a month or whatever, to keep your body guessing and giving it a break. So my main objective was for my gut. And also, you know, my liver, I'm always trying to optimize the liver, because when there's a lot of issues with the liver, that causes other hormonal issues such as acne and even fat malabsorption, all that stuff. So the ketones are processed through the liver correct? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so two things that you're talking about. Number one, you mentioned hormones. You're kind of more on the hormonal specialist, or that's your focus. What's interesting is a lot of guys especially say, well, gosh, I don't want to lose muscle. The irony is fasting actually spikes significantly your anabolic hormones, human growth hormone, testosterone, etc., which is good across the board, male and female, number one. And number two, one thing that we've learned over the last year and a half or almost 2 years doing this, and literally 50,000 people choosing not to eat any food for 60 hours, month after month after month, is the psychological benefit. Like, you know, you and I can coach people all day long on the how-tos, but until they can come to grips with what are some of the triggers, why do I eat? What is the difference between appetite and hunger? Absolutely. You know, a lot of people don't understand that those are two very different words. Appetite is our wanting to or feeling we need to, or the emotional attachment to food, whereas hunger is actually just that. It's a hunger pang, where our brain is now, or our body's telling us it's time to eat. And I think we've learned so much about ourselves, and that's one of the biggest takeaways is people, now they have this kit that allows them to experience a 60-hour fast. The other irony is, I would say probably 30 to 40% of the people that do 60 hours continue for 84. They extend it one more day because they feel so good, because they've made that turn, and now they're operating on ketones. We tell people it's really important to journal the journey, because this is just a very important metabolic tool, I think, for everyone, whether you're an athlete, whether you're a non-athlete, whether you're in shape, whether you're out of shape, probably not under the age of 18. If you have diabetes, we would recommend you're under doctor supervision, and then we don't recommend it for pregnant or nursing women, just for the sake of, we don't want to alter natural hormonal response to, you know, a
Yeah.
growing child inside. But I think the coolest thing is we've accomplished this. We've kind of mastered it. And one thing that's very important is accountability and encouragement. That's why you have such a powerful brand, is because you provide accountability and encouragement to others.
Yeah.
And that is, don't underestimate how important it is to have other people. When, you know, I always tell people when we do this reboot, which by the way, coming up, I don't know what your referral code is, but people can learn all about this reboot if you decide you want to share it with others.
Yes, we do.
We sell these kits on the 1st of every month. They're $79. And look, we're not here to solicit sales, but we are here to share information that we've found just across the board. I've been doing this for 30 years. And when I say this, kind of personal training, coaching, nutrition, you know, performance coaching, all these different things, I've never seen a tool where in just 60 hours, someone can see a breakthrough in so many different ways. You know, whether it's gut health, whether it's, you know, identifying different toxins in your body. You know, I ask people a lot of times, almost always, there's an electrolyte imbalance and likely we're dehydrated. You know, we all think we drink enough. Oftentimes we don't. And so those are a couple of the troubleshooting points. But at the end of the day, I'm just glad you experienced it. Your husband or boyfriend or whomever did it with you. You know, you put up that post like who wore it best. I don't know how his experience was, but
well, he lost
9
pounds, and he definitely had like I mean, he's pretty shredded to begin with, so he didn't need to lose weight. He was doing it to support me, which he's such a good man. He's like, if you're going to do it, I'm going to do it, because or else
that's awesome.
I'm not going to be on the same page. So I appreciate it so much. And, you know, we were really trying to focus our comments, and your mindset is huge. Like, you know, and that's one of the modules I teach my clients is mindset, and how much, I mean, when you're not eating, it's just a really easy gateway to be negative and complaining. And it really gives you an opportunity. I mean, fasting and spiritual practices have gone back way back in time, as
of course, and
it gives you an opportunity to really have a moment of clarity, like, what am I going to focus on right now? Gives you a clearer pathway to meditation and prayer and that type of opportunity, and just to have clarity of like, what do I want in my life? And so we just did a thing like, every time we want to eat, let's focus on what we want next in our life, like what we want to do next in our business, and let's talk about that. And so it gave us an opportunity to really, I mean, I couldn't have done it without him.
Awesome.
Yeah. And at the time when I was like, I can't do this anymore, he was like, what are you talking about? We're not quitting. Like, we're doing this. And it really, like, the accountability is huge. And, you know, within my program that I provide, that's always there. And you guys do a great job within the Reboot community of providing that accountability. And at first I was like, I don't think I'm really going to need that. I'm pretty tough. I do this health stuff all the time. But I'm like, I was messaging you guys that night, like, and then, you know, if I hadn't had that conversation with you, I don't know, I would have been able to continue. But you're right. By you know, this morning, I was like, I could go without breakfast. I would be okay.
You know, and it doesn't it go to show how mental this is? And I think it's good to build the mental muscle, like you were saying. I think that's equally important, because this morning when you found out, hey, okay, it's over, we made it 60 hours, good job, you know, virtual fist bump. It just seemed almost easier, almost immediately, knowing I can eat, but maybe I'll push it a few more hours or whatever. In other words, it helps you realize how mental this is. And, you know, to put it into perspective, this has never been about weight loss. I love the fact that you're all about gut health. You know, all the gurus, experts, specialists call the gut the second brain to the body. You know, but this is a 5-pound model of white adipose tissue, right? Mm-hmm. Body fat. And to put that into perspective, I mean, compared to my head, compared to a blender bottle, you know, that's a lot of weight. And if we can get people to understand that, you know, weight loss is very different than fat loss. You know, in 3 decades, I've never had anybody come and say, hey, can you just help me lose water? Or could you help me lose some muscle mass, right? So weight loss really is water, maybe waste, muscle, and fat, whereas our goal is really kind of fat mobilization. Let's help people become a better fat burner. And the irony is, with ketones, you can actually measure that. So I have a lot of metabolic peers that have metabolic carts where they measure a respiratory exchange ratio or a respiratory quotient. Most people don't realize when you lose this, it doesn't just disappear. It goes somewhere. And most people don't realize it becomes CO2 leaving your body.
Yeah.
That's where fat loss happens. It becomes part of the environment. You breathe out your fat loss. And so we've taken people that have never had ketones, that have never done extended fasting, that have never done this reboot. Day one, we check their metabolic exchange ratio, and it shows that they're very, by and large, sugar burners or glucose burners. You know, the vast majority, all of us really are. And I'm not an anti-carb guy. I'm not a high-fat, low-carb.
Yeah,
my big message is the only diet that works is the one you'll do.
Yeah.
I just believe the one you'll do is something we can find together using some of these tools.
Yes.
You know, addressing gut health, using ketones, experimenting with extended or even intermittent fasting. So we're just thrilled you're aboard. We're glad to pick your brain some too. So
yeah, and
I just having me on.
I just am a big fan of individual health, because what works for one person is not going to work for another. And that's why, you know, I really specialize in testing my clients, figuring out what's going on in their gut, their hormones, because honestly, there are a lot of women who will get on this keto train and they get frustrated because it doesn't work for them. They don't see fat loss, you know, and they may have adrenal issues. They could have liver fat absorption issues. They could have all sorts of stuff going on. And the point is getting specific for them. And that's why I'm a big fan of Prove It, because the ketones are really so identical to the natural ketones your body makes. And so even for most of my clients, I'm not going to advocate a ketonic diet. I'm just not. I'm going to advocate intermittent fasting using ketones every day as their metabolic drink in the morning before they eat, and then getting specific on their hormone testing and their gut testing and fixing the real root cause of the problem of why they're not shifting weight, why they have acne, why they have SIBO. And that's kind of what I focus on. And really, you know, all these things can be used within that same, you know, those same toolkits for individuals, right? So everybody, you know, somebody may be handling a keto diet better than another. And so I hate fads that everybody gets locked into and think everyone needs to do this. And that's just not true, because if it's not working, we've got to try something different. So we got to get specific.
I love what, here's what's cool. Everything you're saying is summed up right here. Ketones create compliance, right? It doesn't mean you have to eat a high-fat, low-carb diet. It doesn't have to be low-fat, clean carb. It's going to be the diet that works for you within the context of your lifestyle, but that's the constant. So I'll just say there's 3 things that I believe everybody needs to participate. Number 1, drink ketones daily. Okay. Why prove it? Well, Rob, you speak for the company and you lead a lot of their education. Well, here's the good news. Prove it. You don't have to take my word or my biased word. I'm biased because ketones are blood tested. There's now 31 brands of ketones. I've tested every single brand in my body, in my blood. And blood work doesn't lie. There's no placebo effect there. So our product raises ketones higher, faster, and sustains ketone levels longer than any other product in the market. So ketones daily, fasting, extended fasting monthly, and then here's the most important one, patience continually, right? A lot of times people just don't realize this because water oftentimes replaces the volume of fat loss. In other words, fat cells don't disappear, but they will shrink. But oftentimes before they shrink, that 5 pounds of fat could have been replaced with 5 pounds of water until this water whoosh happens, or maybe there's a gut issue or whatever an underlying issue is. So I love what you're saying, because that's my philosophy, is I'm not going to put anybody in a box. I'm going to help you figure out what box you fit in. These are just some basic tools that will help us get there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big fan of that. And I think that too, you know, for me, what I'm going to be doing now is my own gut reboot protocol that I have. So I've got a gut protocol for people, you know, because what's happening is as you're giving the body a break, you know, there's a film over your intestinal lining, you know, that we can start to put some things in to start to dissipate that film disruptor. And so all the bacteria that's hiding can come out, parasites can come out. So now's the perfect time to attack those and get down to the root problem. So we got to disrupt the biofilm first. And one of the best ways to do that is to fast a bit, give the body a break, allow it to, you know, to come out, and now we can attack it and then move forward, right? And so the thing about a lot of people are on the probiotic wagon, all these things. You can put as many probiotics in your body that you want. One, most of them don't work and make it past the stomach acid into the digestive system. And two, if you've got a bacterial overgrowth problem, a dysbiosis or SIBO or parasites, it's not going to do anything. So this product it's going to give a head start to everything else that I do with my clients. So I'm stoked about that. The other thing I want to say is some of the tools that I would encourage people to utilize while they're doing this is my detox tools that I recommend. Tongue scraping. A lot of stuff will come out in the tongue and the breath when you're doing this fasting, especially if you're really toxic. And the more you can scrape it off, the better your body's going to handle it. Dry brushing.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, dry brushing is going to help the lymphatic system.
We believe in dry brushing for sure.
And then Epsom salt baths are also a great way to detox while you're doing this. And it's just going to help. And then, of course, your water with pink sea salt, which you guys recommend. But all those things are going to just assist the body to get rid of all the stuff that's coming out faster.
That is awesome. It's so cool to just kind of see eye to eye with someone or another professional. You don't realize this, or the audience doesn't realize this. You and I have never spoken live. Like, we've exchanged a handful of messages, but I feel like I'm talking in the mirror. I didn't know about tongue scraping. That's interesting. But Dr. Heather Carden, one of our specialists, talks about Epsom salt bath. We do recommend dry brushing. And so you'll have tremendous value to add to this community. We're so glad that you're here.
Awesome. I'm so excited. So one more question was, so you already said not good for pregnant or breastfeeding women. We don't want to do that. Not good for diabetics. What about, people, a lot of my clients do have adrenal issues. They've got HbA axis dysregulation. They've got trouble with sleep. And that was something I noticed a little bit of a struggle with. So what do you guys say about that and how these products, and I guess you kind of touched a little bit already, why not just water? But just kind of give me a little bit more around that.
Yeah, so, and look, I'm sure you and I will end up going live and doing a lot more education work here. But to address the first one, what about someone that's, got an underlying issue, especially with adrenals, and hey, wait a minute, you're going to put even more stress on the body? Yes and no. It's one of those, it's for a greater good. And what I might recommend, and maybe I might even lean on you, is coming up with maybe a pre-boot protocol before the reboot where, hey, maybe it's a 12-hour and then we go to 18 and then we go to 24 or 30 or whatever that looks like. I think the body is very resilient. In other words, it takes a while to change the body. And so I don't think the 60 hours would be detrimental in a way that, yes, it might impact it at some level, but I think there would be a greater good for someone with adrenal fatigue or something like that.
Yeah.
In fact, it might be a missing tool. Now, that's probably going to be on you to try to identify, because, we try not to touch too many demographics and be specific. We're not medical doctors. We're not experts in that area, just for compliance reasons. But that's an interesting question where I think fasting fixes a lot of things because we're somewhat meant to do that, right?
Yeah.
And look, there's a lot of and there's a lot of common denominators here. Like if this can help someone with adrenal fatigue, if it can help their gut, it's not just about these 60 hours, but what does it mean the next 30 days?
Yeah.
Are they getting better response from gut health over the next 30 days having done this? Well, that can impact what they're getting from their food, can impact adrenal fatigue, that maybe had they not gone through this process, maybe that wouldn't be happening. And so, again, a lot of it's psychological. The physical is well rooted in science. And so it's one of those things where, like you said, I don't know how you coined it, but you don't believe in, group health or whatever. You're more individualized.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I've never really heard that.
Yeah, I'm really a fan of that. And I always say test, don't guess, because what works for someone is not going to work for the other. And just to give a little specific thing here too, adrenal fatigue doesn't really exist in the sense the adrenals were never meant to fatigue and give out. They're always going to keep going. The problem is they start robbing from other hormones to make more cortisol, and then they get into a dysregulation between the pituitary, the hypothalamus, and the adrenals. So we need to repair that communication. And long-term fasting, is not a good idea, but these small pockets, and I call it crescendo fasting. So you're going to introduce it slowly, especially for women, because men are going to see a a bigger response from this faster. Women, we were made to build babies, to eat the berries and the things that were accessible around the cave, while the men were out hunting and not eating for who knows how long. So I always say we never want to sacrifice progesterone or protective hormones, or, you know, any of those things, our cycles, which can start to suffer if we do this incorrectly. So I really think for women, they really need to have knowledge around what's going on in their body and making sure they're protecting those things. But this can still be utilized, and this can still be a powerful tool, but they just have to know a little bit more about them. And like men and women, as much as we want to make them the same hormonally, we're just very different, you know? So we got to be careful about that and protect the women's cycles, protect their health, and do this in a safe way and know what's going on with their body individually.
Yep. And I think the last point I would make is, you know, ketones on their own, because they are a nutrient, you know, we almost call them the fourth macronutrient, fifth if you count alcohol, but you know, at 5 calories per gram, the difference is ketones don't require or elicit an insulin response. So they're utilized by the brain when present. So it's very different than, say, a water fast or a glucose-based, plant-based, juice-based fast.
Yes.
We're actually turning that off. So ATP, you know, cellular energy, adenosine triphosphate, fancy way of saying cellular currency for our bodies, that's produced at a much more higher and effective and efficient level with less exhaust into the body. And I want you to think about that for a minute. Ketones are just a cleaner fuel source. So it's like driving a Tesla. A Tesla is very environmentally safe to the world because it doesn't have exhaust pipes. Same thing with ketones. When ketones enter into the cell, the mitochondria, that kind of powerhouse or whatever in the cell that creates the energy, there's not the amount of exhaust, also known as free radicals. So we're just operating at a very efficient and effective level as well. So that's one of the, I think, why it's a secret weapon. It's not a magic pill, it's not a magic powder, but it is a secret weapon that I think a lot of people, once they see the value, will begin to understand and appreciate, and then you'll find out the application. I think what's so neat is this is your first experience with the Reboot. You're not someone that has, you know, been using ketones supplementally, and yet you have this whole practice and this whole following and this whole group of people that you're helping. So it'll be exciting to see your take and your application and how you use these and with your clientele.
Yeah,
so,
I'm stoked.
Anyhow, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here. And I have been using ketones and recommending them. You know, I just became an affiliate with you guys, so I'm stoked to have an avenue of that, of sharing. And for anyone who's watching, you can get your next Reboot kit on October 1st. And you can get that through sozomethod.proveitnow.com/ is it Reboot Kit?
Keto Reboot. So
Keto Reboot.
sozomethod.proveitnow, and that's with a U, proveitnow.com /Keto Reboot. And we'll put that in the comments below, or we might go edit, because it'll allow you to put your name in, and it'll allow Amanda to follow up, and it gives you some details. We kind of put it in layman's term what it is. We've got a kind of a optimization guide in between reboots. So and then you and I will pop back on here once those go on sale. You know, we'll pop back on and tell people that are looking why they might want to participate and how we can help coach them through the process.
Sweet. And also for anyone watching who's a little bit more interested in hormonal health, you can go to sozomethod.com, which is my website, and I talk about testing and just the options of helping you get your body back. Might be an option for you to do some testing post Reboot to figure out maybe what's going on in that gut and with those adrenals and that liver, which are always the 3 main causes of issues for our body. So Rob, thank you for being here. This was wonderful. And
I'll text you offline. I want to get your address. I want to send you some stuff, and I want to follow up on your testing and maybe get my wife to work with you a little bit. So that'd be awesome.
I would love it.
All right.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Okay,
thanks,
bye-bye.
everybody.
Okay, everybody, thank you for tuning in. And I see a lot of you are here. Awesome. I'm so excited that you guys are here doing this Reboot. Some of you have already started it. Some of you have some questions. Feel free to post your questions underneath this live, and I'll do my best to answer them. Again, you can go to sozomethod.com and see a little bit more about what I do. You can also follow me on Instagram. If you go on Instagram, it's at sozomethod, SOZOMETHOD. And I have my whole reboot journey there with me and my boyfriend. And yeah, we're excited to kind of take it to the next level, talk about testing, talk about hormones. So thanks for being here, and hopefully this helped answer some of your questions about what it's all about. And I will talk to you soon. You guys have a great Tuesday. Bye-bye.